In case you weren't aware, guys, how you present yourself matters. Now, I know in 2026, as I'm making this video, there's a lot of entities that will try to tell you that your presence and your appearance doesn't matter. Oh, it's all superficial and it doesn't define the true value of a person. And yes, that's true at its core, but we gather a lot of details from a first impression. We gather a lot of data from how someone looks, how they carry themselves, their posture, their general appearance. That stuff does make a difference. And you can sit there and deny it all you want. You can have all these initiatives and commercial campaigns to try to deny it. But facts is facts. Your appearance matters, and how you present yourself matters. There's a few areas that I want to pinpoint, and if you're struggling in these areas, probably need to dial it down and pinpoint and take care of the issue. First, physical health and physical appearance. If you're in shape, or at least have the outward appearance that you're in shape, you're generally going to get more respect. Husbands, you're going to get more respect from your wife. Fathers, you're going to get more respect from your kids. Men in general, you're going to get more respect from coworkers, from colleagues, just random strangers that you might encounter. And when I say respect, I mean that people are, at very least, unless they're absolutely crazy, are going to think twice about talking crap about you, about messing with you, or your wife, or your kids, etc. Physical appearance does matter. And I've talked before about even how you dress, wearing things that won't slow you down in case you have to run or kick somebody's butt or defend your family is a big deal. Same thing goes with your overall appearance. I'm not saying that you have to go out here and be like Arnold Schwarzenegger in terms of physique, but at least looking like you can hold your own says a lot of things. It says first and foremost that, and let's be real, that you're more attractive. What does that mean? Husbands, you're more attractive to your wife. And I challenge you, if you're a man that's maybe having some turmoil or having some struggles with your wife, before we start ruling out other stuff, rule out the physical appearance of yourself. If your wife isn't, maybe being as affectionate towards you or what have you, and you've let yourself go with your weight or your general physical health, with things that are under your control, see what happens if you dial it in. Get back on that training regimen. Get back on watching your nutrition, watching your diet, and see if that doesn't have some kind of influence. If there's something deeper, if there's, a money, gambling issue or infidelity, whatever it might be, of course, that's going to be a key component. But if all things are going smoothly and you're just getting disgruntled disrespect, look at yourself and your physical appearance, how you take care of yourself. Same thing with your children. Children are disrespecting you. I'll be honest. If you're soft, if you're pudgy, and if you're always sitting sedentary, and your kids often see that, that appearance does make a difference. I'm not saying my kids are 100% perfect around me all the time, but I truly believe, because I'm on my feet and I present myself as physically strong, again, not trying to be Arnold Schwarzenegger out here, that I'm less likely to be messed with because of that. Again, by your children, by your wife, by your peers, coworkers, etc. Another thing that we really don't take into account is the appearance of being disciplined and being committed. When you take good care of your appearance, again, I'm not saying that you have to wear $2,000 suits and wear all this brand name material and stuff, but if you're in good physical condition, you take care of yourself, and you're just generally well groomed, you don't stink, you're clean, that shows people that you're consistent. And I know what you're saying. I don't care what other people think. To an extent, yeah, you do. You say you don't care what other people think until you lose a job and you're back on the market, or you're single and you're trying to attract a mate. you talk about stuff like, oh, I don't care what other people think until you're lonely or broke or spiritually deprived or whatever it might be. So those things matter, and appearance is part of it. Again, people wish that it wasn't the case. They try to fight that it's the case. They try to have initiatives and campaigns and TV commercials that tell you that's not the case. It is the case. It's been the case for pretty much all of human history, and it continues in 2026. No matter how much you try to thinly veil it, no matter how much you try to ignore it, it does make a difference. But again, talking about the physical appearance thing, there's a discipline element to it. When you're the person that's in shape or at least taking care of yourself, what that tells people, again, without delving into your life story, is that this person can stick with something, they're committed, they can do the hard, uncomfortable things that the majority of people aren't willing to do. And let's face it, the majority of people aren't willing to eat healthy, go to the gym, drink plenty of water, and those handful of things to take care of their appearance, being able to protect themselves and protect others. Most people aren't willing to do that. You know, the vast majority of people just in this country, just in the US, overweight. Good chunk of them are obese. And even ones that are in decent shape, you factor in genetics and circumstances, meaning that they're in good shape, but they're young, in their late teens, early 20s, and don't have any kids. It's easier under those circumstances. Talk to somebody who's in their 30s or in their 40s. In my case, like I'm in my 40s, and I got a bunch of kids running around. I got a wife, and I got a load of responsibilities. But if I'm taking time to take care of myself and be in shape, again, not on Arnold Schwarzenegger level, unless that's your life goals, but just being in shape, it goes a lot further than letting people know, hey, this guy means boss, or this guy knows, know who's boss. This guy is managing his situations well. It goes a long way. Furthermore, talking about physical appearance, I've talked before again about clothes, like not wearing excessively baggy clothes and wearing Crocs and slippers when you should be wearing shoes. And what I'm talking about with physical health and appearance, of course, the common trend you see more and more nowadays, and especially in modern times, with people having all kinds of stuff in their face, all kinds of metal and stuff, and all kinds of tattoos on their face. And I know people will have a backlash about it in this video and say that, that doesn't define me as a person, and you're too close-minded about that, and I'll do what I want, and that's an expression of my individuality, and all those other defenses that people make. But it does make a difference when you go again for a job interview. And don't give me that, well, I'll start my own business and I'll do my own thing, blah, blah, blah. I've heard that all before. But I'm talking about if you are in that situation where you're not just trying to get a job, but you're trying to create and drum up business, unless it's a very specific business, like you're a piercing and tattoo artist or something like that, that physical appearance stuff that you're trying to do to be flashy and trendy and unique, even though you're like everybody else, that can take a negative hit on you. The one thing that I would think of if I'm a potential employer or potential business prospect is this person seems to really, really be obsessive and care a lot about their appearance. I'm not talking about general cleanliness and grooming. I'm talking about if this person has 80 different piercings and 90 different tattoos, they really, really are focused and obsessed and spend a lot of money on just their appearance. That's what I would think. Not so much that the stuff looks gross or offensive, which I do kind of think it's gross, especially like, nose piercings have gotten out of hand definitely in modern times. And honestly, I think they just look like shiny boogers. Sorry, not sorry. But you're basically saying that I've spent hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars and a lot of time on all these different quote unquote image enhancing techniques. Ironically, a lot of people go around saying that I don't care what people think, while they have all these things, markings on their bodies and their face that say that they do care what people think. And if it's one or two things, okay, that's understandable, that's negligible. But if there's a lot of real estate taken up, by drawings and metal, that tells me that this person is very self-conscious. And again, that's just reading a book by its cover. I know you've all heard the saying, you can't judge a book by its cover, but we're vain, we're simple, and we cut to the chase generally as people more than we'd like to admit. And when we see certain things on someone's appearance, we go through a whole bunch of things in our minds because we're not going to have time to sit down and delve into everyone's life story. So who knows? The person with 9 face tattoos and 13 piercings, they might have a very good and reasonable explanation as to why they ended up that way, and all that stuff might not define them. You might find some depth from them. But let's be honest, most people aren't going to sit there and delve into your life story for 45 minutes. If we did that with every person that we walked down the street with, we wouldn't make it down the block past our house before, the sunset and the moon came up because there's just not enough time in the day. So what we do is we pick our spots. We make a lot of quick, often subconscious decisions on who seems safe, who seems comfortable, who seems easy to talk to, who I'm gonna have to get in somebody's face or get in somebody's business with, who should I avoid, who should I ignore, who am I gonna fit in with, where am I gonna fit in? Like we make a lot of split moment decisions. Again, mostly subconsciously or unconsciously, probably within first 5 to 10 seconds of seeing somebody, certainly within the first minute of meeting them. And these are things that you have to be mindful of. You can sit here and cry and complain that this is a superficial world and we shouldn't be focused on someone's appearance and what's on the inside that counts. Maybe so, but it takes some digging in most cases to get to the inside. And by the way, if someone that you barely know is delving into all this inside stuff and they're just bleeding information, that's kind of a red flag too. Person you just met telling you a bunch of intimate information, and I've had people do that to me before, in my work life and in my personal life, people sharing with me, again, maybe they think I'm just a sap or maybe I'm just someone that's easy to talk to, share with, but people tell me all kinds of stuff. I'm not a gossiper. I don't spread secrets around. That's just not how I operate. But I will think in my mind while people are just delving all this information, like, are you sure that you want to be saying all this? Probably, because people are hurting out here. It's hard to find honest people that won't go around gossiping and spreading business. But sometimes people are just hurting to shed stuff. And by the way, people often come to me and shed all kinds of information, probably honestly because I seem presentable. Again, I don't have a whole bunch of markings on my face, a whole bunch of, rings and stuff hanging out of my lips and nose and eyebrows and all this kind of stuff. I'm not some kind of flabby schmuck. I know I'm probably hitting some nerves on some people, whatever. Again, I'm not perfect. I have my flaws. You see me like I'm bald headed, lost all my hair, and I'm all scraggly looking with my beard and stuff like that. So it ain't perfect. You ain't gonna be everybody's cup of tea, but you can be most people's cup of tea without having to go above and beyond and manipulate your appearance and your identity and your well-being just to satisfy a handful more people. And now that I'm having this talk, most people probably do all this stuff, whether it's some of the things I've already mentioned several times in this video, or even stuff like getting plastic surgery and you know facial corrective surgery and what is it, Brazilian butt lifts and all this kind of stuff, on the off chance that it'll make you 2 to 3% more appreciated by certain folks, certain group of people. I consider that diminishing returns. I do. If you have to go through a huge physiological and sometimes psychological change just to satisfy maybe a handful of people who honestly don't matter as much, certainly not nearly as much as a relationship with God, but these people that probably won't even matter in your life a year or two from now, we've got people out there basically either letting their bodies completely go to the wayside, their bodies and their minds go to the wayside, or they're going too heavy with the enhancements and the corrections and the changes to try to be pleasing and satisfying, again, while living in denial that they're not trying to get anybody's attention. It gets pretty ridiculous at that point. So here's my overwhelming advice on this subject. Just take care of your physical appearance. Stop trying to use different masks and dyes and piercings and, you know, a million other things just to be closer to what you think you truly are. Because if you think about it, it was that difficult. Like, why would you have to pay someone hundreds, in some cases thousands of dollars to do all this manipulation to yourself? It seems pretty ridiculous. I don't know. I see it, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that agree with me. When somebody has gone above and beyond with their physical appearance in the wrong direction, or when somebody just completely lets themselves go, whether it be like their weight, their cleanliness, whatever, you feel a little icky. Most people do. They just don't say it out loud. One, because we're not trying to constantly get into fights and arguments. And two, would that person really even listen to it? I mean, most people would probably get really defensive about it. In fact, people do get defensive about it. Because people can't really take criticism nowadays, but that's a whole other topic for another day. So guys, take care of your appearance. You take care of your appearance, you get physically strong, you go hit the gym, you start eating well, you stop doing debaucherous things to your body. I'm telling you, your wife will respect you, friends will respect you more, your kids will respect you more, people in the workplace will respect you more. Some cases begrudgingly, but they will, because they know you take care of yourself. Not because you're worried about what other people think, because you care what God thinks, and because you care what's best for those that are in your close, intimate circle that you care about, meaning your family and your closest friends, and that you don't take no crap. So please, take care of your parents. Take care of yourself. You know, stop drinking and smoking weed and doing drugs and all that stuff. Goodness gracious. All right, guys. I've rambled enough. God bless you. Take care. Peace.